So this is another emerging category, and I think when we're starting to get into categories like this, it's important to understand the anatomy of it with a flywheel, of course. So,
Okay, of this flywheel, how many people are doing at least one thing on it? That's a little less than half that's doing it. Which one are you doing that's on this flywheel? Anybody, just yell it out. EV charger? Is that what every EV, solar? That seems to be the top two. Batteries, anybody doing battery packs? Backup storage power? Not a standard? All right. I was just curious.
Yeah, I think, this is the way to deliver smart, clean, efficient power, right? And with self-generation and understanding that it's going to be a hybrid situation for the long term. Let's not forget about the grid.
Yeah.
The grid is there. The grid is your most cost-effective battery right now, is sending energy back up into the grid when you don't need it, that you're generating yourself on your property and then bringing it down at other times when the rates are lower. And so a lot of times we forget about it because it's not a product, but the grid is an important piece of the overall system. There's a lot of smarts on the distribution and the consumption side of things, and then there are the generators and these different nodes to get the stuff out. But I think this can be helpful for you to understand what a holistic system looks like and where you might want to play.
So when we talk to consumers about their plans to buy a plug-in or hybrid or all-electric vehicle, they don't necessarily have plans to buy one or even necessarily have one right now. Now, this might be surprising to everybody, considering every time you turn on the television, there's another EV vehicle being put on the market and being slammed, that they're everywhere,
But they're
right?
hard to get. That's
Right?
the problem.
But it's their plans in 3 years.
Yeah.
More than half of the people are not planning to or do not currently have an EV car. Go to the next slide. However, would they want an EV charging station in their home? And more than half say that they would. So what does this tell us? It tells us I might not currently or be planning to buy an electric vehicle, but I know it's going to have value long term, right? So while it might not be my personal plan, what I haven't asked and what I haven't digged into is it because they think it's going to be resale? Because they do plan to buy it in 3 to 6 years, right? So this just means that EV charging station does have value to the homeowner, even if their current shorter term plans aren't to necessarily purchase a vehicle.
Yeah. So we did some consulting with a company called Schumacher Electric, they're best known for charging car batteries, traditional combustion car batteries, and race cars too. Yeah. But they have a smart connected EV charger. They're integrated with Savant Power and working on other integrations. And we studied, what happens if you get to 2 EVs is you're typically exceeding the power capacity available and 80% of the charging is done at home. You're typically going to exceed the power capacity of a traditional feed to a home, so it's going to drive the need for the solar and storage and the smarts on the distribution. So, this is a huge trend. Your buyers are going to want you to play at some level.
And then when we talk to consumers about solar, and we said, how much time would it need to take to repay for solar panels on your home? So that what your power utility bill was being offset by the cost of solar, most expect for it to take less than 5 years to pay off. Depending on the thing, this might or might not be feasible, but a little bit of education around how long it does take for solar to pay off, between 5 to 10 years. Consumers are considering that acceptable, and a lot of this comes into education. I go to the Prius example. When Priuses were first, the first hybrid car on the market, that was really driving home to the consumer what it meant. And every time you went to shop for one, on the stickers on the windows, this is when people actually still went to the dealership to buy cars, right? They would have these things that says, save $5,000 a year on gas. and they would show the math between the two, right? And like, this is how I feel about solar, is like, save X number of dollars on your utility bill, because all the consumers know that it's not just, we were talking about this earlier this morning, it's not just what I have to pay for my mortgage, I also have to pay my utility bills for my home. And so they understand that their total budget has to balance here. And so if their home does include solar, it does have a value to them.
And a lot of that solar payback, solar at home payback, has not included the payback on the fueling of the car.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's another thing. It's like, now I'm not buying gas, but I'm
Yeah.
sucking power out of my, so your utility bill is going to go up unless you start self-generating. So
Well, and the federal government has a lot of incentives that they're rolling out now that the consumers are not necessarily fully aware of that could help offset some of those costs as well.
yeah, so we wrote this guide with Schumacher, and we can make this available to you, but it's got good, better, best in there. It's got a kind of EV charging ready level play, which might be the play that some builders want. It's got a basic and then a fully blown, and we've done some of the analysis on the cost payback side of
Fantastic.
things. So that's something that could be helpful.
More resources. I love a good resource.
Here's a grid-based good, better, best that you all can review at your leisure. We're at 6:37, so I think we need to go faster,
Yeah, let's
right?
keep going.
Are we doing
Rock and
okay?
roll. Work from home. This one, let's just jump right in. We all know that people started working from home more. We did quite a bit of analysis. We worked with the US Census, we worked with our own surveys and a couple other people to try to figure out how many people moved because they could work from home now. And we believe that of the 15 million households that did move in 2020 or 2021, around 10 million of them worked from home. And of those 10 million, 4 million say that the ability for themselves or their spouse or whoever they were co-purchasing or co-living with influenced their decision to move. So that's 4 million people in the United States that moved simply because they could work from home. 4 million. That's a lot of people. Can we go to the next slide, please? And then of those households that worked from home, the 40%, you can see that 21% worked from home and did not work from home during the pandemic, and this is just about what their spouses did. Can we go to the next slide? And then 40% of workers expect to work from home at least one day per week moving forward. And so that's a huge percentage. And this is not necessarily of those 40%. This is just 100% of the United States. 40% of the US think that they're gonna work from home at least one day. If you dig into this, there's around 13% that are gonna work from home exclusively. I'm one of those people. I work from home full time. I just get on planes to come do these types of things. And then you have everybody in between, and that's a big percentage of people, and that is way greater number than it ever was before. So we really need to think about what that means. And then workplace location. And so if you look into the different pieces, so the gray is I did not work from home. The sort of green in the middle is I hybrid work from home, and then work from home exclusively. There's a huge percentage in shift. So 35% of workers are expected to work hybrid. And then the next slide. Oh, here's yours. Nope, go for it.
Well, I just think those are huge numbers.
They're
You've got
giant numbers.
Hybrid and total full-time work from home is 51%.
Yep. It's
And I think this is one of our themes here the last couple of days is we got to be able to do a better job of speaking to this need, this trend, right?
Well, and
it's not a fad. This is a trend.
If you talk to people who used to go into the office all the time and now they work from home, and that they've had this huge life shift, what home means to them is a huge difference now. And my sister's a perfect example of this. She just sold her house last week. And she sold her house because she was convinced that being in there 24/7 was making her sick. And because before she used to go into the office, so she spent 8 hours sleeping a day and 8 hours in the office per day. And she was getting healthy air and all these things at the office. And so it wasn't making her, but her year that she had to work from home, she kept having all these health problems. And she was like, that's it, I'm out. My house is making me sick. I'm not going into the office anymore to offset it. I can't do this. Get me out of my house.
Right.
It means a lot when you're spending 24/7 in your house all day. It means something different.
It does. I mean, in the workplace, we've got building engineers who are looking at indoor air quality and temperature and the productivity of employees. I mean, that stuff doesn't disappear because you're working from home. So if you have bad air quality, you don't have good temperature, you're going to be less productive. And ultimately, maybe the boss isn't there, but the results are the results, right?
Correct.
So I don't know that this is a great smart art display here on the work from home. We should have done a flywheel.
Okay.
But
I'll work with you on the smart art. I got an idea for it.
but I think the complication on work from home from a tech perspective is some of this stuff can be built in. Some of it is what we call in the technology industry, bring your own device. Like people have some of these devices or might buy them at retail or have them and bring them. But having the right infrastructure in terms of the power, you want hardwired high-speed internet connections. You do want ergonomic mounting of displays. You probably want a backdrop that's professional if you're doing a good amount of video conference, and who isn't.
Well, that's what I was talking about in the executive forum. Storage in the office and how you integrate in the office is very unique compared to the rest of the house. You don't necessarily need room for papers and everything anymore. You need room for ring lights and for cables and for a direct. This is one of the few places in the house where people directly connect in, is wherever they're working from, especially if they're doing a lot of video streaming and video chatting, versus like the rest of the house, everything can be on Wi-Fi. And so thinking about that, and that's where I was talking about with the tech integration within the home, wherever your connector for your cable connection, your Wi-Fi connection, your phone connection is coming into the house, if that can be near where the home office might be or your flex space might be, that's going to really help to sort of make sure they get optimal speed.
I think in your models you want to show this furnished, right? You want to show, even you may not be selling everything there, but you want to show it furnished. And by the way, Best Buy has a builder program, so Best Buy would probably love to be on the back end of all these devices that need to hang in there, and would probably be willing to share commissions for those lead opportunities. And there are other retailers that I think would be interested in it. So, I'm trying to get the tech industry to do a better job of showing you how to do this, having some reference designs. But clearly, this is a room that can win a sale for you, right? So we should be showing great work from home situations. And I think the shade control and the lighting control, when you go from work mode to performance artist on TV mode, is another one that's,
This would be ideal lighting for my home office.
Yeah, well,
I would look fabulous every day on Zoom.
You got to pay the riggers, though. It's not easy.
That's okay.
This is Legrand's making they're here, and they've got a lot of the pieces and parts from an infrastructure perspective. So we've got about 4 or 5 minutes, actually, because they
lied to us?
They lied, yeah.
That was,
and that was good,
buffer.
because our theme is 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag at this conference, of whatever you decide that is. But so AV is, it's kind of an oldie, but I've also called this a renaissance. I mean, you have now architectural video, right? You didn't have architectural video. Now you got these frame TVs. And I think almost all of the TV suppliers have something that dual purposes as art. You've had built-in speakers in the ceilings and the walls for a good long time. But let me just walk through, what I think are winners. AV zones versus dedicated theater rooms or media rooms. I think there are some buyers that want that dedicated room, but most of our media consumption these days is we're multitasking.
Yeah.
right? Somebody's critically watching something, somebody's not. Somebody's
Well,
on
back
their
to my
phone.
husband's
Yeah.
example. He needs to be on the phone, on his laptop, and watching the TV all at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And that room all needs to support those things
Yeah.
because he's watching the stats on his computer, he's watching the game on the TV, and he's texting his friends on his
Yeah.
phone, right? And like all that needs to happen at the same time for it to be the optimal sports watching event
Right.
for him.
Right, but so to me, if you like get out of dedicated room mindset and you think about a high performance AV zone, it looks great, it sounds great. If I want to be in that zone and be immersed, and like once you've had a subwoofer and surround sound, you really can't go back.
No,
It's
you
like
can't.
listening to an AM radio in a car. So think about zones, and there could be multiple zones in houses too. There could be a zone in the owner's suite, there could be a zone in the great room, et cetera. So think zones. There has been a bit of a rebound on the theater room and the media room, and some of that's about like get away from work from home, immerse yourself. You can dual purpose the AV stack in the office for entertainment. Multi-room audio is a category I've always loved. I think it's transformative when you just have the music everywhere and either you have guests or you're walking through the house. So I think that's still a popular application, and you can do anything from simple inexpensive stuff with folks like Sonos, and then you could have invisible sound where nobody even sees the speakers. It comes out of the wall, and it's like you're in a movie and you have the soundtrack of your life there. And it really sounds good now, whereas 20 years ago. So that's another thing. And I mentioned the architectural video and outdoor AV is important too.
Well, the outdoor AV is increasing. We're also seeing outdoor everything is increasing right now. People want to spend more time outdoors. So don't forget that wear your plugs outside. And do you have a cable connection outside? Because some people do have their TVs outside now. And so just reminding yourself to at least give them the option for those and give them multiple options for where those plugs are helps extend that living space into the outdoors. So if you're offering an outdoor covered room, 2, 3, or 4 plugs and maybe a cable connection makes a whole lot of sense for this to happen.
Good, better, best. Finally, with 1 minute to spare.
We headed to the kitchen. We're going to talk about kitchens and baths later today.
Yeah. So I don't know if this is something that's maybe my pet project. It's like everybody could be their own Julia Child, right? It's like all the smart connected appliances, they need to be in context with a kitchen that's better connected, and it really kind of like a studio or a media intake place as well.
I don't remember the exact number, but of all the Alexas, I think there's like a ridiculous amount of them. They're in kitchens. Yeah. And that's really where they live. And there's a lot of the visual, what are they called? The visual Alexas. I can't remember what they're called, but anyways, with the screen on them. Yep. Thank you.
Smart screens.
Those are the ones that really live in the kitchen because people are looking at recipes. And so that's sort of like the gateway, that and the smart refrigerators.
Yep.
Very high adoption rate. People understand it. Consumers understand those things.
Yep.
And so
to me, it's cameras too, though. It's like range hood cameras, and this stuff's available. I'm not making it up. If you want to be Julia Child, you want to do intergenerational recipe sharing and stuff like that, you can. That stuff's here today. We just need to show the consumers the experience, and we really haven't gotten the appliance folks and such to do it. Maybe Samsung's here. You could agitate for them to do it because they got the cameras and the displays and the speakers and the appliances. So
well, to wrap this up, one thing to think about is how consumers understand these things and what they're looking for. So consumers understand smart fridges. They also don't necessarily want minor conveniences. So yeah, it's nice that my refrigerator can tell me that I'm low on yogurt and that I'm low on milk. That's convenient, but what's really gonna save the day? And these are the ones that I believe you're gonna see more bandwidth happen over the next few years, is things that solve problems that you can't solve for yourself. So water monitoring. That one, you can't see what's happening between your walls, and that might save you a lot. And I know that insurance companies are offsetting this too. Things like you forgot to turn the stove off, a notification around those, Those are life-changing things that can happen. What are some of the worst days in consumers' lives? Their house is flooded, their house catches fire, they burnt something in their stove and their whole house is gonna smell like burnt everything for forever. These are the ones that really change the way that consumers look at smart tech. And so while the lights, switches, and the music control and all these things might make life more enjoyable, and create a whole home experience, the ones that are monitoring the water, the ones that are monitoring the stove, the ones that are monitoring your home security are the ones that really move the needle for them, and that's where their mindset is.
Yep.
Any questions? I think we're probably out of time.
We're fresh out of
Okay.
time. So thank you, Deanna. Thank you, Nice. Brett,
Yes.
we're sorry you're not here. Thank you to Nice.